This is the Anything But Banker to Broker podcast. We're going to be talking to some of the industry's best and brightest about the unique pathways they took before stepping into broking and how it set them up for success. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, thanks for jumping on. So today we're joined by Katie Norbury. She is what I would consider coming into the sort of new age of brokers, very heavily reliant on TikTok and generating a lot of leads on there. And it ties into her background in marketing that she did for I think about 8 years. Her passion and her reason for doing this was really because she had a pretty shitty experience buying her first home. And it sort of led her on this pathway of, I could definitely do things better and I want to be out there doing it, especially with the first home buyers, which is that niche that she selected. So yeah, thanks for having me, Katie. How are you getting on?
Thanks for having me, Joe. Yeah, going good. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really good. How did I hit that? Did I miss the mark, or does that sound about right?
That was right on the mark. Thank you.
Beautiful.
That was a good intro. Makes me sound good.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Katie the broker, is that your TikTok?
That is my TikTok and my Instagram.
We'll plug it early so people can go and find you, okay? We'll
Yes.
do it at the start, we'll do it at the end.
Yes, love it. But yeah, businesses settle in, and then on TikTok, I just go by my name.
Beautiful. So we obviously had a good chat before we started here, and funnily enough, like I said to you, I had this weird feeling this would have been your journey. But could you tell us, what was it like growing up for you, and what was what did your mum and dad do for work, and where did it really, I guess, kick that work ethic into you?
Yeah, so Joe and I were chatting before about my background. I'm actually from the UK, despite sounding like I do. I probably sounded a bit more like Joe as a child. So I grew up in a small town in the UK called Dinnington. You've probably never heard of it, but it's kind of near Sheffield. So grew up in a very working class town. It was very much a kind of mining town, which obviously with the mines being closed down, had a little bit of a difficult history recovering from the mines being closed down and the majority of the town not having work. So growing up, my dad was kind of in and out of a lot of different jobs with a lot of businesses closing. So there was redundancies, there was leaving jobs to find better work, a lot of minimum wage jobs and struggling through. So when the opportunity came up for my family to move to Australia from an ad my dad saw in the newspaper, we jumped on it, and 6 weeks after Dad applied for the job, we were on a plane to Australia, country we'd never been to. Hadn't been to, where had I been? I've been to Europe and Africa as a kid, but I'd never made it to this side of the globe. So it was a very big move for the family. We moved to Mackay when I was 11, but I mean, we're still here, so it can't have been all bad.
You had to lose the accent by the sounds of things going to Mackay. That's not somewhere where you could get away with sounding like this.
No, there's a lot of
even
teasing.
As a 15-year-old, like, and that's
yeah,
not,
it was constant. Even the teachers would make fun of me. Like when I would raise my hand to say something, everyone would repeat what I said, have a giggle. Like it was light bullying, built my character. But every time they would tease me, I would say, well, how do you say it? And then I would practice. Now I'm Australian.
It happens to a lot of your teachers as well. So a lot of your teachers would come and do outplacements in England.
Yes.
And they would say, hey, class. And we'd all go, hey, class. That's where people are made.
Exactly.
Now, before we move on from that, I don't want to get too political, but would it be fair to say Thatcher not considered girl boss in your household?
No, when I did an assignment on Margaret Thatcher in year 12, I wrote an essay about her leadership style. My dad was so mad at me and he sat me down and gave me a big explanation on why she's the worst woman to ever live. So yeah, Margaret Thatcher is a swear word for any working class family in Northern England.
Yes, the milk snatcher, Maggie Thatcher.
Yes. Not a fan.
To everywhere else in the world, we won't disdain her name. She's a wonderful girl boss.
Sure.
So moving over here, your dad obviously ended up doing what he was doing back home, right? Got back into the mines where his passion clearly was.
Passion or the money. I mean, I don't think anyone's passionate about mining coal in a dark cave, right? Like it's not, he doesn't love his job, but the fact that it's given us so many opportunities as a family, it's obviously paid quite different in Australia versus Dinnington. And it's given my family the opportunity to build a home. It's given them the chance to send me off to uni in Brisbane, let me go to a private school. I mean, a private school in Mackay, we're not breaking the bank majorly, but that was something that my parents never dreamed of having an option for me as a child growing up in the UK. So really afforded us a lot of opportunities, and Dad was more than willing to rough it in a really difficult job for the opportunities it gave us as a family.
Yeah, and I think this is be good because we have a lot to talk on here. Like that is a huge cultural difference, right? You know, same as you, you told me before, I'm the first one, apart from my uncle of my immediate family who went to uni, and I only went to uni because my uncle went to uni.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's cultural differences there. Like, you know, now I'm seeing my daughter grow up, I'm like, you know, maybe I should pay a bit to get her into a good school to make sure she has an opportunity,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because
a
you can't
different
just rely on
mindset.
them. Yeah.
You know, you don't know anyone who's been to private school in the UK. And as a child, we didn't have any family friends, or I didn't have any family who'd been to uni before. So it wasn't even something that I could imagine doing. Like, it just wasn't in my world. And then coming to Australia and learning about all these different careers and being in a private school where uni was the pathway, it opened up a whole new world. Like, I wanted to be a famous singer when I was quite young. I can't sing. And then I was like, oh, I'll be a nail technician. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to work in marketing. And it was all these different careers I didn't know existed.
You are essentially the female version of Billy Elliot. Yeah,
Exactly.
pretty much. You know, it's like you're not doing that. You're going to go down the pit with the rest of us. Like, no, Dad, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a musician. I have a
Yes,
voice inside of me.
exactly. Exactly. I feel like that's kind of a safe depiction.
And then after having all of these epiphanies, you ended up getting into marketing.
Yes.
Do you think that is because that's where you're like, that's the biggest draw for your personality type? Is that what it was?
I think so. I would say that I'm quite a creative person, but I also can be quite analytical. So when I was kind of going through what to do at uni, I was drawn to kind of the creative side, but then my mind was saying, where's the money if you're going to do something completely creative? Like, we've got to pay the bills. And I started kind of learning about public relations and advertising, and I really quite enjoyed the creative side with a business mindset on that. So I majored in public relations, and I had a minor in advertising. And then naturally, once I graduated, kind of got more into marketing roles. And honestly, I do like marketing. I had a lot of fun with it, but it's a very subjective kind of role to be in. And you are constantly questioned by everyone in a business on any decision you make. Everyone has an opinion on marketing, and it's a very tough job to be in, I think, day to day, when anything you put out there is public. So every single question is asked to you, and it's quite a difficult role.
And it's fair to say as well, everything needs to be a bit more big tent than what me and you are both doing now, right? We're not putting stuff out to attract everyone. With a marketing campaign, it's the flip. The whole idea of it is to, you know, get as much of a, I guess, like a designated pool as you can. Is that fair to say?
Well, that's the hard thing, I think, is that you're trying to tell a CEO perhaps that we really need to niche in and focus direction here, but their understanding might be, well, we need to reach everyone. We are a business for everyone. And I've worked in a real range of businesses. So I've worked for Kentucky. Anyone who's Australian listening to this would know Kentucky, a travel brand. That is very niche. You are only targeting 18 to 35-year-olds who want to go to Europe and party. Like, that's simple. Whereas I was also working in women's health, where we want to attract all women from all demographics. That's not necessarily true. So trying to bring people in to be like, who do we need to target? How and why? And trying to convince a CEO who might not have a background in marketing why that is the case, because it feels quite risky. So yeah, I think it's actually a really undervalued part of a company. And I still see that in mortgage brokers, but I like that it's undervalued in mortgage brokers, because then I can swoop in and use my marketing skills. Because I think a lot of brokers just focus on writing deals, head down, stay humble, stay quiet. And that's not what marketing is.
Well, and I also think when they say marketing to clients, they think selling to people, right? And they don't differentiate between their idea of marketing is find, isolate, call, and engage. Whereas marketing is obviously, you know, there's this digital element to it, which you're obviously capitalizing, which is making sure you're front and center. People are feeling you. They have a good connection with the brand and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, you moved to London. How old were you when you did this?
I think I was 23, 24. I actually lived in France and London with Kentucky, which was pretty cool.
So that's what brought you over there. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
That's a nice added perk.
Yeah, it was very fun. I got to work on their marketing team. My second week of work, they asked me if I was comfortable to go on a work trip to Budapest. I said yes, very comfortable. So I had a lot of cool opportunities there. But it very quickly made me realize why mum and dad hopped on a plane to a country they'd never visited, because living in the UK is hard. Like, we think the cost of living here is bad. I dare you to live in London for a month. Like, it's grim. It's hard work. It's not for the faint of heart. It's difficult.
Yeah, that is literally paycheck to paycheck. I know a
Mm.
load of people that have moved, people that I went to uni with that have moved down there, and they look like their lifestyle is great, but you know for a fact it's
The bank balance is zero. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like, we get 50-cent bus fares here in Brisbane, for example. I was paying back then £130 a month just to get to work. My rent
Is
was
this on? Were you on the
triple.
tube?
Tube and train. I had to do two types of transport. It's a big city. Yeah, so, paying a lot for public transport, triple my rent in London, and then you step out the door and it costs you £10. Whereas in Australia, we've got the beautiful weather. You go to the beach for free. Like, so many of our activities that we get to do in Australia don't cost a cent. And I didn't realize how much I loved that about Australia, just being out in nature, enjoying the sun. There is no sun in London. It was a tough winter, let me tell you.
Yeah, like the only biggest ups. And look, I'd be keen to hear what your mum and dad think about you moving to London, because I know for a fact, being from the north, being working class, they would have thought it was a terrible idea.
Yeah. Look, they were proud of me. They were proud that I'd got a job in London. Like, they thought that was amazing, but they were like,
We'd never do
you're
it.
either going to love it or hate it. And they were worried about me hating it. My parents are very supportive, to be honest. Like, they don't get too involved or give me too much feedback on anything I do. They're just happy for me to do my life and celebrate whatever I do. So I'm lucky in that regard. But when I came home, they were like, yeah, we didn't expect you to love it.
Yeah, it's a different place. Like I've literally been there once as an adult. And
Really?
I went once as an adult. I think I was like 21, and I just was like, yeah, I can't do this. And it was actually when I was flying to Australia for the first time from Heathrow,
Wow.
and I was just like, this is not somewhere I could. This is not my place.
No. And it's good. Look, you can have a lot of fun there, but for 10 years, I think I'd be pretty exhausted. It's fun for a couple of years.
Yeah, I did always say on the flip side though, like if I think Manchester now is becoming like the northern powerhouse, the hub of the
Yes.
north, but I think London is always, if you're pursuing some kind of professional career, I think you need to go in and cut your teeth down there and do something if you're staying in the UK, because there is a lot of opportunity down there.
Huge. And it's more than you can imagine. Look, I'm in Brisbane. I wasn't going to get the opportunities I had there. So, I don't regret doing it. And it really did make me realize and respect what my parents did in moving somewhere like Australia. But yeah, it's tough. And I think you've got to go there knowing it's going to be a difficult place to live. If you can make it work, good on you, because the opportunities are endless.
Is it fair to say you need to be in the sun and you need to be in the warm weather?
Yeah, I've
Because
done
I
my
feel like you'd be
time,
in Melbourne
Joe.
otherwise. I feel like you'd definitely be in Melbourne if we had the sun.
Yes, I love Melbourne, but for me, I've done my time in the cold weather. I need the warm. Brisbane's a bit too hot in summer, but we're pretty lucky here. Like, it
You
barely
need that
rains.
Mackay, that sticky, that there's like crocodiles and shit at some point of the year. That's where you'll comfort.
No, no. Get rid of the crocodiles. I don't want to see a crocodile or a snake, and I don't want that level of humidity.
So moving on from, I guess, what you've done in marketing, what would you say has been your most translatable skills that you've brought from there, or things that have stuck with you from doing that?
Gosh, that's a tough question. I think, look, being able to kind of use social media to promote myself, but not just in a kind of selling way or promotional way. The other year I did something, it's called the mini MBA in marketing, that really looks at marketing as kind of like quite a large scope and uses all the parts from an MBA that you would do just on marketing. And from there, it talks a lot about customer segmentation and how to best communicate your brand. And for me, I think that's just been such a good skill to bring over to marketing. So I knew quite quickly niche down, how to break through the noise of other brands, what I need to do to kind of focus my customers on me. And really all the content, if you look at my content, I'm not saying book an appointment with me tomorrow. Here's what happens when you book an appointment. My content is, here's how you buy a house in Australia. Here's what you need to earn to buy this place. Here's the steps you need to take to speak to a mortgage broker. I am entertaining and educating. I'm never selling, because I do not like being sold to. I don't think anyone seeks that out. And a lot of brokers forget that when they turn a camera on and talk about their services. So I thought I can do something a bit different. And now almost all of my clients come from TikTok or Instagram, unless they're referrals from clients I've already spoke to or people I've met in the past.
You're targeting that demographic of first home buyers. Are these people that have then become aspirational, that they want to go and invest after speaking to you? Or like, is there people at very different points of the journey, I can imagine?
Yeah, look, I do talk to quite a range of people. A lot of people are honestly like humble backgrounds where they're like, I've been working bloody hard. Where am I going to put this money? I need somewhere to live. And a lot of people are thinking now of their first home as their stepping stone, whether that first home is the stepping stone to an investment property, or it's just the case of, if I buy a 1-bed unit now, when I meet someone in 5 years, maybe we can buy a house together. Or, you know, just having that security. I would say I'm not really talking to hardcore investors who are like, I want 5 investment properties by the time I'm 30. I'm not attracting that kind of client. I'm attracting more mum and dad investor types, single woman trying to get in the market, people ready to start a family, because that's more my people. I am not from obviously a wealthy background. I am someone who's used my place that I bought to get into the market. And then hopefully I'll be able to buy a house in the future. So yeah, just kind of talking a lot, honestly, on social media about my experience, because I live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. A lot of mortgage brokers are quite well off. They're too deep in their mortgage broking business to be relatable. They are at the stage where they own 3 investment properties and have a beautiful home, and they're saying their niche is first home buyers. They have nothing in common with a first home buyer. They bought their home with a 20% deposit. They bought a house straight away 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I can say from my lived experience, I am a proper true first home buyer to what they're experiencing right now. I've done the slog. I can relate. They can relate to me. And it's a really good ground for getting them through the pre-approval process into the formal approval, because I understand what they're going through.
And you segued very nicely there to me, because what I wanted to ask next was, obviously a big part of this, what we talked about, was the shitty experience that you had. And you've been quite open about it. I don't think you've kept it quiet, but I'd love to hear, like, for the people who didn't get to read the article, like, what was that process like?
Yeah, so look, shitty in terms of I was outbid at auctions, cried at an auction publicly, like put in so many offers that were declined, very frustrating. We had a fine mortgage broker. She was fine, but I do have to say, and I need someone to correct me if this is wrong, but I'm in a same-sex relationship and our mortgage broker made us see someone to validate our relationship and sign an affidavit to prove that we were together. And I speak to a lot of same-sex couples. I've never once been asked that by a bank to get an affidavit to prove that someone's de facto. So now I'm reflecting back on my experience of having that mortgage broker, thinking that she maybe was doubting the validity of my relationship. Joe, what do you think? Is that true? I've never had to do that for a client.
I can't speak from lived experience, but what I can say to you is that doesn't sound, not in this day and age, doesn't sound like something you would question.
Yes, this was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know, that doesn't sound right to me.
Me either. Anyway.
Like, do you think maybe what they were trying to do, what she was thinking there is like, these are just two friends that are trying to, because I don't know what it's like from the buyer side, two friends buying or a couple buying. Does the
Yeah.
bank favor that differently? I don't know. I assume they would, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and look, we were de facto from the start. And my experience, look, I'm a year in broker. I've done maybe 6 clients in same-sex relationships, never once been questioned by the bank. And I always say this to clients because they're often quite apprehensive of the process when they're in a same-sex couple, whether they're going to be questioned. I've never once had a bank question a same-sex couple. So my reflection on my experience was that was strange, and I thought it was strange at the time, but I didn't know to call it out.
Yeah, it does sound strange to me.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I see.
no,
The way I would see it is that the bank would treat anyone who's not technically married the same, but
de
I don't
facto,
think they
yeah, they
should be
never question
treating.
it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and look, like my experience as well was turning up to open homes with my partner and them asking if we're friends buying together or sisters. That's a really strange scenario. Buying with a friend or a sister is completely unusual. Like that, the most common scenario is buying as a couple, but the assumption was always not that. So I think that, look, I've really wanted to kind of be open about being in a same-sex couple, be open about who I am and true to who I am. And that's not going to please everyone. A lot of people, I'm sure, choose not to come to me as a broker because they might not agree with that. Great. Don't come to me.
How old are these people?
Exactly. They're not my ideal customer. So I kind of made a conscious decision that I was going to be very open about who I am. And, I've had people who think they're being really supportive comment on how brave that is. It's not brave. Like, it's just my life. Like, it's crazy
It's
that
funny,
that's
right?
considered brave.
I think, call me millennial, the normal thing for me to do is say I use 2 partners and them laugh and go, no, we're just friends, rather than ask it the other way around. Like that to me seems a weird way of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
100% Joe. I know, if anyone is offended if you say, are you two in a relationship, that's on them. It's
But, but
2025.
yeah, but then they can just laugh and go, no, we're actually just friends. And you'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah,
know what I
and
mean?
move on. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, look, I've tried to position myself as, it's a judgment-free zone. I have that on my website. There's no judgment. There's no silly questions. You can come to me and be who you are. And that's, really important because I didn't always feel like that was the case in my purchasing journey. But look, we got there in the end, and the real estate agent that we bought with was not like that. Did not assume that we were friends. They were very welcoming, very normal, treating us like we were normal. Crazy. So yeah, we actually had a really good experience in buying the place that we bought, I do have to say. So we were really lucky in that.
Yeah. What I will say is, and again, I didn't want to get too political, but like this country, I think, is a little bit behind on things because my uncle's been married to his husband now for like 10 years. I think there is, they've adopted a child and everything. They've never been treated at any point during any process as if it's anything other than normal.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
But I feel like we are coming into a golden age of like what people consider to be like unconventional to be a bit more normalized from a more societal perspective. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And look, like anyone who is queer listening to this who's like 10 years older will be like, that's not that bad, and laugh. Like it isn't that bad, but those assumptions kind of bother you slightly during the journey. And you kind of reflect on them and think, why did that happen? That shouldn't be like that anymore. We're definitely unlucky. We're not oppressed. It's just those small things that occur that kind of bother you and shouldn't be happening anymore. I've spoken to quite a few brokers, did a bit of a marketing session with some brokers a few months ago, and they ended up being well, how do we speak to LGBTQIA plus people? Because they'd never met a queer person to ask the question to. So look, there's a lot of education that needs to come in for brokers because we deal with everyone. We deal with different cultures. We deal with different ages, different sexualities, different family types. Got to learn how to talk to everyone. And if you can't, teach yourself.
And I think you can very easily tell when someone's got good intentions or bad intentions, right?
For
Because
sure.
my lived experience growing up, my uncle, I knew he was gay since I was 10, right? So like
Yeah.
for me, that's always been normal, and I've always had that thing, so I would never treat it differently. But you can tell there's people you speak to that don't have that outside experience, that
For sure.
everything that the questions they ask are very what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're innocent questions, like that one there. How do we communicate? Same way you would speak to anyone else, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe don't bring it up. That's a good place to start. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the best
Exactly.
place. But it's all right. So moving on, you obviously, when did you decide you wanted to become a broker? Was I guess this process that you went through, was that the definitive thing that made you realize you wanted to do it?
Yeah. So when we spoke to our broker, I was kind of like, I could do this. Like, what is this job? And I'd always had an interest in finance, and I'd honestly worked in a lot of charities as a marketer and I like helping people, right? But when I was working in marketing for charities, I never directly felt like I was helping people. So I started looking into how she became a mortgage broker. And I was like, the barrier is not as high as I thought. Like, I was kind of strapping myself in to do another like 4-year degree and thinking, I don't know if I want any more HECS debt. And then I realized it didn't involve that. So I started looking into it more seriously and spoke to a few people and thought, what do you think of me doing this? Spoke to a couple of brokers. A lot of the brokers I spoke to really stressed the importance of relationship building, being quite confident, being able to talk to people, and the kind of loan writing being a small portion of it, which made me quite happy because I was like, I can talk to people. I could probably get leads. I'll struggle with the loan writing. That's completely new to me. So, yeah, quite quickly made the decision, to be honest. I mean, look, probably was in the back of my mind for a little while. I was working for a fintech company that was not kind of going so well. There was a few redundancies that happened, and I really felt like I would be coming soon based on how many people were made redundant. So I thought, I'm going to start studying. I'm going to lock in and I'm going to transition to be a broker. And that kind of was the push because I loved my job. There wasn't a reason to leave, but what I didn't love was my paycheck. I was like, this can't be my life. Like, things are so expensive. The cost of living was growing. And I genuinely started to think, on my income and my partner, who's a nurse's income, we're never going to live the life that we thought we could live a few years ago. Something has to give. So the more I looked into being a broker, the more I realized kind of the opportunities for income growth, the opportunities for flexibility when we have a family. And I thought, why the hell would I work for someone else if I could get this working?
Yeah, I think same for me, right? You create this ideal sense of self, like what you want to be able to do. Like for me, like I'd like to, take the family to the US and go on a road trip or something like
Yeah,
that. Sadly, the way this country's gone, I think in the last 8 years, like that stuff has become less realistic for a lot of people, almost impossible for most people.
agree.
And that's why people are finding alternative ways or looking at transitioning into different industries where they know that there is earning potential for the work that they're doing. Because I think I've spoke about this a lot on here. That is why a lot of brokers become brokers. So especially if they're bankers or if they're not, they know that the hard work that they put in is work that's going to be rewarded. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, I in marketing, the harder I worked, same paycheck came in. When I cruised for a week, same paycheck came in. I am not motivated like that. I am so motivated as a broker. Like, catch me working a 12-hour day because I know what I put in, I get out. And it feels like such a smarter way of working. I can't believe not everyone wants to do this because just seeing your results based on your effort is really a rewarding part of the job.
Now, moving on to your marketing across the channels that you use, I think a lot of brokers fall down with this because they think it's too hard to be doing it ad hoc. Like, are you using any tools or methods that you can kind of stay consistent whilst doing it?
Yeah, so most of my content that I put out is TikTok video content, and I also make, videos for Instagram, and I do kind of carousel posts or just regular posts. I worked pretty hard on my brand with an amazing friend of mine, so she's kind of set me up with templates for editing like bits of text and dropping in pictures, which we use on Figma or Canva. And then video wise, I just use CapCut, which is just a video editing software. It's about $14 a month for the pro version, and you can edit a kind of like a mobile shaped video on your desktop, which I prefer to do. But really, I guess the key thing in terms of content and putting things out there is you've got to dedicate time every day. At least every second day, I'm filming a video and I'm putting aside half an hour to do that. If you aren't if a lot of people ask me, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I can't be making videos. So, okay, then don't get leads off social media. Like, you have to dedicate time and you have to be consistent because they're
Yeah,
not
because
just
as soon
gonna,
as and they're always changing the algorithms as well, right? So you need to be at least out there, stay in front and center because
yes.
I see it on LinkedIn a lot. They're constantly changing the way that the feed is viewed. Is it most recent? Is it most viewed? Is it most watched? Like you
Yeah.
have to kind of stay consistent out there.
And you've got to be scrolling. You've got to be doom scrolling to understand what's trending, what's happening, what you need to know. The amount of people who speak to me and say, I really want to start doing TikTok. And I'm like, why? What do you want to do? Oh, I want to get leads. Well, what are you going to post? Like, what do you know about TikTok? Oh, I don't know. I've never been on it. It's like, well, you can't do TikTok. You've got to spend 3 months doom scrolling before you jump in. Otherwise, the Gen Zs are going to eat you alive in the comments. You've got to be posting good quality.
What? So I seen you was involved with the Advisors New Broker Academy. Is that right? I
Yes.
tried to do some research. I couldn't find that much on there, but it said Katie Norbury was involved in this. So what were you doing?
I was just on a panel. So it was a panel. They had three of us. They had me, someone from Mortgage Choice a few years in, and then they had Nathan from Birdie Wealth, and he has built kind of a mega business and is doing amazing. So sort of like showcasing the stages of brokers. And I was there as the newbie, kind of finding my feet and, posting on TikTok essentially. And that was a really good opportunity. Lots of great people were at that event. And it was really good to speak to them. Lots of people had questions kind of about social media and how to utilize that to get leads, because I think a lot of people post once and then they're confused when they don't get a lead and they give up. They're embarrassed and
Yeah.
just leave it.
Yeah, something I've been doing as part of my process is if I'm speaking to business owners or brokers that I'm like transitioning from being a banker or whatever it might be, I have this pack that I've put together that's basically like 30 ideas for a post. And don't get me wrong, they're all the most basic shit that you would go to, but people don't think, you know what, maybe I'm going to put a video about who I am and what I do and why this and what my journey is. So every person I speak to that is look, I just look on people's LinkedIn and I'm like, your LinkedIn doesn't look great. They're like, oh yeah, I don't really use it. And it's like, I know all I can see you do is post that you've had a promotion every 3 years or whatever it is. I'm like, start using it, start connecting with people on there. Like go in there, delete everybody who's not relevant to what you're doing in your next job. You don't need them in there unless they're your really close friends. Like start building a presence on LinkedIn where you're doing essentially what you do on TikTok as well, right? Because people that is a shop front for a lot of people. Like, yes, Gen Z,
100%.
yeah, Gen Z are looking on TikTok, but TikTok's very limited in terms of how you can, I guess, connect from there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, I would say like every social media platform for me has a very different use case. So I would say my Instagram is more like my business card for millennials. Like I rarely get my website shared amongst someone referring me. Most people share my Instagram profile. TikTok is more random people finding me and wanting to connect with a broker, finding someone who's more like them. I get them coming through TikTok. LinkedIn, I get a lot of past career situation, like people I used to work with connecting with me on there, or people who were ex-marketers being like, why is she now a mortgage broker, but booking with me out of curiosity, I think. But yeah, like every platform has a different purpose and you've got to post accordingly. You shouldn't be posting everything on every platform because that's not a strategy. That's just bombarding people and they'll unfollow you on one platform just because they're seeing the same
That's
shit everywhere.
okay. That's a good noted, duly noted. Because I just started using this tool called Zoho, I think it's called
Yeah,
Zoho Schedule, and it lets you kind of schedule things on different platforms. But that has been my strategy
no,
because I've
it's
only been.
wrong.
It's wrong. Okay, thank you.
You've got different people looking at you on different platforms, Joe. Like your LinkedIn people would be very different to other social media platforms because that's business professional.
Thank you. You've helped me. Now, what have you really enjoyed coming into the industry, and what have you found challenging?
What I've enjoyed, I would say, is how generous brokers are with their time and energy to build up other people. I have gained a lot from other brokers, being very generous with their advice, with their scenario workshopping on complex clients. I find that really, really great. I think that it's It's such an interesting industry because technically we are all in competition, but there's enough leads to go around that there's such a great support group, I would say. And that's from a range of brokers and a range of backgrounds. Like I have an Instagram group of broker girls who use Instagram and TikTok, and we kind of connect with one another on what we're doing in that space. And the odd question on how the hell do I do this deal comes in, and we're on Instagram helping one another. Then I've got, I'm with Connective now as my aggregator. There's a great platform on the Connective site where we can help workshop deals with one another. Other group chats that I've benefited from my old aggregators with other brokers. And I feel like any broker I say, do you want to get a coffee? They're up for it. I've met so many great brokers and chatted with them about the stresses of business and stresses of clients. And it's just nice to connect with other people going through the same thing as you.
Yeah. Like, that's why I love it as an industry, because everyone is a champion for everyone. Don't get me wrong. There are brokers that butt heads and, do treat it a bit more like it's I guess like a feast, and, everyone needs to be, but for the most part, I feel like everyone understands that it's a good way of elevating their lives, their families' lives, and also their clients' lives if it's done properly. And that's where I feel like there's that mutual respect of you're working on a deal that really you've never worked on, and it's a scenario you don't understand. Well, this broker's willing to help you out because he knows the after effect of it helps you, but it also helps the client that you're dealing with as well.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And look, we're dealing with something pretty serious. If you screw it up, it's someone's house on the line, it's someone's income on the line. The pressure is immense. And I think every broker gets that. When someone's reaching out to them, it's not just like, hey, I'm too lazy to figure it out. It's like, no, I have something very serious at play and I need to fix it, or I need help making it happen. People always come to the table. And I would say the same for BDMs. Like, how amazing are the BDMs? Like, workshopping, calling them, annoying them constantly, and they always have time for you to help you through. And BDMs will often say to me, it's not a deal for us, but have you considered this other bank? I know they'll do it. Everyone's so generous with their time.
Now, pivoting back again to your niche, right? So your niche is first home buyers. Did you ever feel like targeting marketing professionals was something that you could or should be doing as well? Or is that not something you're interested in?
That sounds bad. It's not something I'm interested in. Look, I never thrived at marketing networking. Hey, I meet a lot of marketers who I love. I'm connected to a lot of marketers I love. Are marketers my people completely? I don't know. Like, I think that I do love talking to people from a huge range of backgrounds. And while first home buyers is not a huge niche, I do start all of my videos with, like, I'm a mortgage broker in Brisbane. I help mostly first home buyers. So I would say my niche ends up being Brisbane first home buyers, which is as much as I'm willing to niche down. I'm not willing to niche down marketing professionals wanting a mortgage. And I know there's a lot online about niching super specifically. I'm not in that camp. I've got a disagreement with that, but go off if you're on it.
Mate, let's talk about it. What's your thoughts on that?
There are...
No one's wrong at the end of the day, right? Because anyone will do the same thing and yield different results, right?
Yeah. Let's use marketing as the example. Marketing is so vast, right? You could work B2B, you could be in pharmaceuticals, you could be in charities, you could be in government. That's a huge range of people. Marketing, I don't believe, is something that people take as their entire life and personality type. It's quite a loosey-goosey job in a lot of ways. Like, there's lots of types of marketing, lots of types of people do marketing. So I in itself don't think that's a niche enough industry. I see a lot of people targeting nurses. I don't think that's a niche enough industry either. And I think you'd get pretty bored only doing LMI waivers for nurses from 2 different lenders day in, day out. Not where I want to go. I accidentally do quite a lot of lawyers, which I love. Great income, LMI waivers. I only do that because I've got a lot of friends who are lawyers. It's not a niche of mine, but is it an area that I do a lot of work in? Sure, happy to do that. But I think that when you niche into just an industry, I think you might get to a bit of a bottleneck as well. And also you can't really pivot back from it. So for me, first home buyers make sense for me right now, where I'm at in my life, where I'm at in my career, because I have a lot of experience being a first home buyer. I hope to God 20 years from now, I'm not a first home buyer still and still in this goddamn unit. I hope that I have a beautiful home and a family, and maybe I have an investment property, and that's how my business grows with me. I think that niches should be able to be changed because I don't think your niche should stay the same. And I think if you're sitting there thinking you want a niche and just plucking like nurses out of the air when you haven't been a nurse in the past, good luck connecting with your clients. Like, that isn't enough of a reason for that to be your niche. I think you have to have lived experience in that niche a lot of the time to truly authentically connect with your client, because people can see through the bullshit so fast in our industry. Trust, authenticity is so important. If I won the lotto tomorrow, I couldn't still work with first home buyers because my background would be me at the beach. They'd be like, "Where are you?" I'm in my beachside mansion in Byron, and they'd be like, "What do you know about this struggle? Like, it's been a nightmare to save a 5% deposit."
So that's when you'd be dealing with Suffolk Park mum and dads, and yeah, that's what the pivot would be then, pretty much. Yeah.
I would be like, "I'm a Byron mummy. Like, let's buy you a $10 million mansion at that point." Like, I think you do need to relate in a certain element. And look, there's a lot of reading you can do. There's a lot of like meeting people you can do to really connect to that niche. But I think that there's going to be a point where it's like, why is that your niche? And should you be expanding that reach?
I think you're right there, because had I have only worked recruiting for the banks, I'd never actually done brokers. Me starting this business would have no context. Do you know what I
And
mean?
what's your passion? Why are you here? Like, people want to know, and that's not going to add up.
Yeah, it's funny because I always say, and I'm very open about saying this, like before starting the business, I decided that I was going to be a broker myself. I wanted to explore that option. It didn't transpire, and I'm really glad that I did this because I am very passionate about it. But I always said if I was going to do it, the niche that I would go and target is recruiters, recruitment agency owners, people that are in a salesy type gig, because I understand that, their paychecks can vary. And I'm sort of glad I didn't do
That's
that.
general enough, though, as well, because
Yeah,
it's sales as a whole. Like, how many salespeople are there in Australia?
correct.
Thousands upon thousands, but it's niche enough that you're like, I understand complexities in your pay, and that's how I can help.
Yeah, and I understand your realities, right? I get that some days you get to clock off at 2 p.m. and go and have a beer and go for a big lunch. Some days on the same Friday, 2 weeks later, you're still sat in the office at 10 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one of the things I would say is like, if you're niching, let's say, on nurses, what's the difference between a nurse and a physio who works in a hospital? Like, their shifts are the same, their employer's the same. Like, why did you niche so hard when you could have been available to all healthcare staff, for example?
Now, just to kind of wrap up here, you obviously are very, very new into the journey, but you're obviously, you've got a lot of skills that you brought across, and you're clearly passionate and doing very well with it. What would your advice be to somebody who was in your position? Hopefully they've not gone through such a shitty process, let's say, but someone that was in your position on the journey that wants to be a broker, and they're, about 6 months, 12 months away from doing that. Like, what would you have done better, or what would you tell them to do?
I would say I get quite a few people reach out to me about becoming a broker, and I usually say to them, only do it if you're willing to go 100% all in. Because if you're not 100% in, you won't be a broker in a year in. So you need to give up your job. You need to have 6 months of savings because you aren't going to get paid very quickly if you're self-employed. And you need to dedicate probably more than full-time hours with no reward for quite a long time to make it work. Now, I would say that I give myself full-time hours. I work over that almost every day. And my mind is always on, what could I make as a video? What can I do for this client? I have to be available to answer the phone when assessors call me at 7 p.m. If you're not willing to do that, don't do it, because you won't succeed. You'll make $60K a year. It's not worth it. It's not worth the amount of effort you're going to put in.
Yeah, a conversation I would always have, because in my last job, we'd get the qualified leads, which you would now be after 12 months, and then we'd get the people that weren't qualified, which would have been you pre-12 months, right? And I'd speak to those people, and they'd always say, I want to come in and I'm going to do it. I want to run my own business. I'm going to do the self-employed me model, but I'm going to do it part-time to get going. And I'm like, great. What about if you've got MIRs and stuff that needs doing? Like, you're literally dealing with people. For a lot of people, it's the most expensive thing they will ever buy. Like, how can you
100%.
do that if you're committing? And these would be people who'd be working in kitchens as chefs and stuff like that. I'm like,
Yeah. Mm-mm.
it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Almost
not an
everything
industry.
is time critical as a broker, right? Like you need to respond within the next 10 minutes or you've delayed the entire application by a week. Like it always feels urgent as a broker because it is. Like you need to be available.
You need to be there to not cause people anxiety. Imagine the anxiety if you was like, oh, I've just found out my broker on or his broker in the property that I'm selling on in 20 days. He actually only works part-time and he spends the other 3 days of the week chopping up
But
fish in a
it's not
kitchen.
a part-time role, but it could, and I always say this to people who are thinking of becoming a mum, it could be a part-time mum role because you can take calls here and there. You can answer a call when it's urgent, but you cannot be working in a kitchen. You cannot be employed by somebody else and do this role successfully. You could be someone's assistant, perhaps part-time. It's not going to pay the bills as well as being a broker and committing 100%. You've got to be willing to, I think as a broker, like my plan, I want to go hard for 3 to 4 years and maybe my trail then will become enough for me to cruise on by a little more when I have a family.
I mean, a model that I've worked with a business on is like they had a huge overflow of leads and they wanted me to go out and target a mum that was out of work because she was on maternity leave. She was an ex-broker or an ex-banker and they were just going to get her working on a commissions model, right? And
That's great.
they just, no hamstring on hours. She could do whatever she wanted.
See, I think
And it
being a
worked.
broker is a great role for a working mum, but you need to be able to jump out and answer a phone call. And I'm not a mum, so I don't know for certain that I'm right in saying that, but it has so much flexibility, but you always need to be available. So yeah, you could be at the beach, but if your phone rings, you got to answer.
Yeah, I think, look, that post-COVID, the world has obviously changed. Like, people are, let's say my daughter walks in here now. I'm not going to be like, like that guy on the BBC News where he's got his wife
Yeah,
scrambling in. Like that's not going to happen. I'm going to pick her up. I'm going to sit her on my knee and she's going to sit and listen to the last 10 minutes, right? Like the world, what I'm trying to say, the world has changed. So I think
100%.
if someone picks up the phone to a working mum broker and the kids are in the background, the brain
So
switches
be
it
it.
out now. It gets it, right? You know what I mean? It doesn't see it
Yeah.
as unprofessional. It sees it as real and authentic. And
Well, it's relatable. I mean, if you're a working mum, that's probably your niche. Busy working
Correct.
mums, great niche. If they hear your kid on the phone, they'll be like, how old's your kid? Mine's this age. Connection, relationship building.
Well, look, really, really good to have you on here today. You've shared a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge for people that are in your position. And I think, I'm very keen to see what you do over the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully,
Thanks,
10
Joe.
years from now, you've got your nice house, you've got your nice family, you're sat on a beach somewhere, and we can clink a
We
beer
can
together and
hope,
say,
Joe. I'll see you there. No,
See you soon.
thank you for such thoughtful questions, Joe. That was a really good interview.
Beautiful.
Such a great range of questions, not just how to be a broker. It was so much deeper than that. So thank
Yeah,
you.
that's not why we're here. We want to know the people. We want to know the people, not the profession, all right?
Exactly. Thank
See you
you.
later. Bye.
Bye.